right. Greetings, everyone, particularly those who have joined us today. And for those who have not, of course, you will receive the recording for this session. Today, we're going to go over Module 4 of the Pre-ETS study, which is the last module. Now, this module contains information about the community-based work experience. I'm Teresa Belluccio from the University of Kentucky, and my colleague, Carolyn Cage from Virginia Commonwealth University has joined as well, and we will be presenting the material to you today. So let's get started. Feel free to ask questions as we go. So Module 4, Community-Based Work Experience. The community-based work experience is a culminating activity for implementation of the Pre-ETS Toolkit. Ideally, if using the Toolkit as a curriculum, the CBWE should occur soon after completion of the workplace readiness lessons. This way, students are able to observe how the concepts and skills they have discussed in class are represented in a real work environment. Given the target age of students that we have in this toolkit, we have redesigned a single work experience. However, this experience could and should lay the groundwork for future Pre-ETS, such as a more extensive and longer-term work-based experience for the students. Facilitators should use the report template, which we're going to show you in a few minutes, provided in the lesson, to record observed strengths and interest and provide suggestions for the next step. So we found this report to be extremely helpful. Now let's go over the Module 4 objectives real quick. First, gain knowledge in the delivery of Pre-ETS, job exploration, workplace readiness skills, and the community-based work experience. Identify techniques and strategies for providing Pre-ETS instruction to youth aged 14 to 16 with significant disabilities. Recognize strategies and evaluation methods for work-based learning opportunities. Gain knowledge on how to plan post-secondary education and training based on vocational goals and interested career clusters. Identify evidence-based practices and key predictors for incorporating Pre-ETS into the classroom education and home activities. And reflect on current practices to identify strengths and areas of improvement in the Pre-ETS delivery. All right, with that being said, let's move into Module 4 a little closer, and let's look at the instructions. First thing that you can do is download and review the following lesson materials, which you see there on your screen. Include the community-based work experience report, which is a PDF form, and the community partners tracking template, which you see there is a Google Sheet. And then there's the action plan. The next thing you can do is develop and complete the CBWE activity. I think that's a little further down on the... Do you see that in there, Carolyn? The action plan. Okay. All right. And then the last couple steps include completing the CBWE discussions, which you all have been doing a great job about. And then you'll complete the CBWE quizzes that are located in Module 4. Right, so those are basically the tasks that you have that introduce Module 4. And then the other tasks include completing the weekly tracking form that you've been doing on a weekly basis, whether you have engaged students in the material or not. Also, download and complete the community-based work experience report right there. Perfect. If you all have any questions about that report, please let us know. And then, as I said earlier, the last component is finishing up your action plan that you've been working on. Okay. Now, let's go a little bit deeper into the CBWE instructions. So, when you're thinking about having the community-based work experience, here are some things for you to think about. First, you can begin planning for this after completion of the third job exploration lesson. But we know it takes time to identify places within your community. So starting early, of course, is a great idea. And then as your students are engaging in these lessons, you're getting an idea of each of the students' interests and preferences. And those should guide you in looking for locations to take them. Secondly, you can reach out to VR and other school folks, collaborate with others to discuss the logistics, the scheduling, of course, transportation, and the staff that you might need to take students on this experience. You could meet with school personnel to discuss appropriate date and the time for the CBWE, based on the student's instructional day, their schedule, and the school calendar. Thirdly, identify potential businesses as partners in the community that can offer a work site tour, a job shadowing opportunity, or just a brief hands-on activity required for operations of the business as they are feasible. So in doing this, you could consult with VR representatives, perhaps who work in the community, to identify appropriate business partners. You could use your community partners tracking template to identify and document prospective businesses that can support the event. And just work with colleagues that for example, those who work with employment in the schools that you work in, to identify some local businesses that would be glad to have your group. In a bit, Carolyn and I will mention some of the places that we took our students to for this work-based experience. Another thing you can do, discuss the expectations of all stakeholders in terms of obtaining permissions for the students' attendance, their behavior, and subsequent activities. Remind school personnel to arrange transportation and address any scheduling issues related to lunch and/or missed assignments. Confirm the business partner and activities that are planned. Identify school personnel that will accompany students on the trip and provide supervision and needed support. Ensure that all required documentation for participation in this activity are completed and approved by the appropriate school personnel. Review the purpose of the CBWE with the students and the expectations, for example, what they should wear that day and how they should behave. Identify any needed accommodations for students in terms of accessibility and navigation into a business. Make every effort to select a location based on the student's strengths, preferences, and their interest. Now, only one location is really required for the purpose of this course if you're using this curriculum. However, it is appropriate to schedule further events, future events, or even more than one in a day if it's feasible. Lastly, You can review the student workbook entries and use weekly reports to identify the student's interests and preferences. As we went along in our study at UK, it became pretty clear which type of careers that our students are interested in, because they definitely kept talking about them through the different lessons. Okay.
We had the same experience, but we can't emphasize enough the timing of the CBWE, because for me, for both of my pilot sites, there was a pretty good gap of time between the end of classroom instruction and the actual work experience. And so it made it harder to make that connection. So it's important. But what we did have, like with one of my sites, we went to an existing location that was already a business partner, Nautica's Maritime Museum, and they took a tour. The students enjoyed it, but it wasn't necessarily, and it had some of the interest and preferences that the students had expressed, but not all. In my second experience, we went visited the Dollar Tree warehouse. A little bit closer in time, but still not as close as I would have preferred. We had several students who were interested in mechanics and working in a warehouse, so that was a good fit. They did even some discussion afterwards so that they could, kind of make the connection. But for a couple of my students, it was a no-go. And because we had to do a lot of walking up and down stairs, it was a little challenging for some of my students, but it was still a really good experience.
In one of the experiences we had in one county in Kentucky, we were able to take our cohort of students to 3 locations. So because we had 5 students in our cohort, we were able to take a small bus that the employment specialist at the school was able to obtain, and she was connected to local businesses. So we took students to a hardware store where they learned how to do things like shelving and other jobs related to hardware. And then we went to a screen printing business, which a few of the students were interested in. So they were not that close together. There was like 20 minutes drive in between. So we virtually had the whole morning, and I think we had our students back by lunchtime.
Any questions about this so far? Feel free to put them in the chat or, unmute and let us know. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at the report, the community-based work experience report, which is one of the required activities that we'd like you to complete as part of this module. And did it come up? Why is that link not working? Oh, because it's a download. Sorry. Can you see that? Okay, great. I forgot. That's why we're set for download. All right. So you will see it's not very different from the end of module reports that you have completed for job exploration and workplace learning skills, but workplace readiness skills, excuse me. Demographic information is the same, but in this instance, you're going to list the employer that you've partnered with to host the CBWE, the date that it happens, and the type of employer. And it doesn't have to be a detailed description. It can be, the industry or whatever information that gives us some idea of why you chose that site. And then you're going to document and look at the skills that the students expressed or demonstrated during the thing. You're going to provide a description, document the workplace readiness skills that the student had the opportunity to demonstrate during the work experience. And it's with a simple yes or no, or if it was observed. In my instance, they were tours. So students did not have the actual opportunity to perform any tasks. So it's okay if you don't get to observe everything, all of the workplace readiness skills that are listed here. Again, this is an experience. It's a culminating activity to see if they can apply what they learned, but they may not have the opportunity to apply all of it. So in those instances, if you didn't observe it, you would simply place an NA, check in the checkbox under NA. Rate the students' observed behavior and performance based upon the scale provided in section 4. So here you will see other things like attention to tasks, motivation, working independently, and so forth. And then you want to write a summary of the work experience based upon each of these descriptors in section 5. And you want to consider the data collected on the student from the job exploration and workplace readiness skills reports that you've already completed and the impact that classroom instruction had on the community work experience. Also, you want to include recommendations for future work experience opportunities. So for example, if you observe some strengths or something that went really well, you may want to recommend that students have an additional or a lengthier opportunity like an internship. Once you do that, you want to get the students' perspective. So you want to schedule time with students individually to share observations that you had in the previous sections and get their feedback on what they thought of the work experience. For our experience at Dollar Tree, we did this even before we left the site. We had enough personnel that we could sit one-on-one with students and talk to them, okay, what did you think? What did you like? What is this someplace that you want to be? And so because this does not have to be completed by a teacher, but by any personnel that was there. And so again, some of the feedback. Is this a location where you'd like to work? Did this experience match your career interests? What did you learn about yourself or careers from this experience? And what would you like to go for a future work experience? And then you want to review this entire report with case managers, VR counselors, and family members to help with future transition planning. This is actually a good tool to use as part of an informal transition assessment because you will have the opportunity to actually, like a situational assessment. Okay.
And just a quick note here about this report. At the very top of the report where the contact information is, it says on the right side, DARS, D-A-R-S. That refers to the vocational rehabilitation counselors in Virginia. In Kentucky, we just call them VR or OVR. So that's what that is.
And thank you for pointing that out because we never noticed that we had just went one-sided with that. Okay. All right. Any questions about the community-based work experience report? Okay. As Teresa mentioned, once you complete that report and complete this activity, you will have one more time to do your action plan. Opened. You should be on, I believe, objective 4 or objective 3, I'm sorry. Identify a required objective related to community-based work experience that needs to be met to achieve your identified SMART goal. For example, you might want to identify your goal could be to objective, I'm sorry, could be to identify a business partner to host a community-based work experience, just that simple for that number of students from your district. Identify the specific activities needed to achieve the objective, persons responsible, timeline, desired, just like before, desired outcomes. And you want to begin crafting a plan for sustainability because now you have just about completed your report. Based on what you learned in this course, what are some areas in which your plan for sustainability should focus. For example, do you have a pipeline for student recruitment for pre-eds? Do you have consistent family or input or a process to market pre-eds directly to students and families? You write out what your needs are to establish and maintain momentum in that sustainability section or goal. And so you want to write like a sustainability SMART goal just in that section, and maybe a couple of things that you want to do to achieve that goal. But our purpose in having you again to do the action plan is that you have a takeaway, you have something that you can use that will help you to implement pre-ETS to meet the needs of students with high support that require high support or with significant disabilities. A couple of other housekeeping things that we want to make sure that are done. We've already mentioned the discussion board, the quiz. Be sure to go back and check your grade book. If you are interested in getting continuing education credits or CRCs, again, everything must be completed in order to receive those credits. So make sure that you've completed all discussion board posts, the original +2, that you scored at least an 80 on quizzes. If you need an additional opportunity, we as facilitators can provide that. And then, of course, your weekly tracking form also needs to be completed because that's how we're collecting data on pre-ETS. Again, this is not a judgment call. If you are not doing it, it's okay. This is just our way as part of the study, the research study, to keep track of how often pre-ETS is able to occur. Okay. And then finally, you're going to receive an announcement in a couple of weeks that says that asking you to complete course evaluation. Now, this is so important. In fact, this entire study has been feedback on the pre-ETS implementation process and use of the toolkit. But we want to make sure that talk about the course. Was this helpful to you? About the timing of it? How long it takes to do the activities. We need that feedback from you so that we can improve on how we can support you in your delivery of pre-ETS. Okay. Are there any questions? Yeah. Oh, please, Teresa, go ahead.
Oh, I would just like to add a few things. One, many of you have done exceedingly well on the discussion board and have shared so many strategies with each other. It's truly impressive, and shared your experiences and the difficulties in providing pre-ETS. So we really appreciate that. And also some of you have emailed us with different little issues that need to be looked at. And we appreciate that too, because in the end, this content will be released when the study is closed. And we want to fix everything. So if you see something needs to be fixed or edited, those are things that we need to know about as well. And we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So from Virginia and Kentucky, continue in the course. If the course will end on Sunday, June 9th, however, it will be available open at least 2 weeks if you need the additional time to complete some activities or requirements. And if you need more time than that, just let us know. Our goal is to support you in your delivery of pre-ETS. And we want to make sure that if you are interested in receiving the continuing education or CRC units, that you have the opportunity to do so. So just let us know how we can help. If there are no other questions, are there any questions? If so, you can post them in the chat or unmute. Well, Vicki, we thank you for joining us today. And we look forward, again, you can reach out to either of us if you have any questions so we can be of any assistance in any way. And thank you for participating.
All right, then. Thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from everybody.